When the world didn't want me and made me feel small, all I am is broken inside. Some echo identity who can't find his shadow always hurts mentally.
Okay, so we are going to be breaking down the lyrics for Elate. Now, this song it's a pretty personal song to me in terms of like, finding joy and whether or not I can be happy, and it's a huge I think it's a huge song for me. Just like putting cuz I've made a song about how alone I feel and how I feel like a burden, but talking about how I'm not happy is, I think, a huge thing. So let's go ahead and dive into the lyrics here. For starters, I did an intro, which I don't usually do intros. I think I scrapped an intro for Isolationship, which intros are not usually my thing, but there's a couple of intros on a lot of the music that I'm going to be writing that I think are important to include. And yeah, so with the intro, the first 4 lines here: will I ever see the morning? Will I ever feel the sun? Will I ever be elated? Will I ever do enough? So these are questions I actually have for myself that I wanted to throw into this intro. So will I ever see the morning? Will I ever feel the sun? I kind of throw this line back to looking at like sunsets or sunrises even, because I think that's when I really feel joy, is when I see like a sunset or sunrise. I like to take pictures of those sometimes, or even if I see it in the video game. It's another similar thing that I just thought I'd throw in there. But no, those things make me feel joy, and I actually do have those questions of like, will I ever, will I see these things again? Will I feel the warmth of the sun, or will I see the morning? So big questions I had. And then, will I ever be elated? Will I ever do enough? So will I ever be happy? Will I ever do enough to feel said emotion, is what I'm really trying to ask here. Is like, I don't know if I'll ever be truly happy, but I hope like I do enough to get close enough to that feeling. And that's why I asked all these questions, is like, will I ever get close enough to feel the emotion of elation, and then going to the next line here, I want to see the light instead of every night. Basically kind of throwing back to the morning and sun lines. I want to see the light instead of every night, because truly I do feel like my room is a safe space, and kind of all I do see is night. I really don't like go out that much. It's not really something that I'm motivated to do, except when I have to work, but that's that. And yeah, I want to see the light instead of every night. And then going to the next line here: since I don't know where to go, I need a different life, something that feels right so all the colors really show. So since I don't know where to go, which basically means like feeling lost and feeling like, since I don't know where happiness is, I need a different life, something that feels right so all the colors really show. It's not contemplating like the whole unalive thing. It's more so like, I feel like I need a change of pace, and something that does feel right so all the colors really show, kind of throwing back to seeing light, seeing the sun, seeing the morning. I want to be able to feel like I can be happy, like truly happy. So this intro is kind of like it's an introduction to the song, because I want people to know that like I'm truly looking for the feeling of being happy, the feeling of joy, the feeling of elation, and I don't know if I'm going to find that, and I want to find that, but like, don't know where that is. I don't know where that emotion lies, or if I'm ever going to find it. That's what this intro is. It's that introduction to, this is what the song's going to be about, and I want you to know that through these lyrics. But moving on to verse 1. Verse 1 is kind of like an aggressive, the verses in the song are kind of like really aggressive, not raps, but like kind of beat down lines a little bit. So going into verse 1 here, fake smiles to forget my problems, fake attitudes for me to solve them. So fake smiles to forget my problems. I typically, when I go into work, or I do a thing I don't want to do, I put on a fake smile to forget my problems, and then put on a fake attitude for me to solve them. And that is literally the only way I can get through my days most of the time, is putting on a fake smile, putting on a fake attitude to forget my problems and for me to solve them. So if a fake smile will forget my problems away, like any depression I have, any sadness that's in my system, just throw on a fake smile and everything will be fine, kind of like the image in the background. And then fake attitudes for me to solve said problems. So kind of throwing everything away. And then going to the next line here, can't be myself, never been real, just some shell of a man who will never heal. So I really wish I wasn't fake most of the time, but I am, just to get through the day. That's why I do it. But yeah, can't be myself, never been real, just some shell of a man who will never heal. And that's true. I feel like, if I can't be real with people, I'm just some shell of a man who will never heal. I can get real with people, and I try to be, but like most of the time I do fake my emotions to get through the day. There's some people I can be real with, there's some people I can't be real with, but I do put on a brave face most of the time to get through the day. So those are those lyrics explained. But moving on to the pre-chorus. Everyone is happy except for me. Everyone's found somebody except for me. Now, kind of going back to whether or not a relationship will fix my problems. There's no guarantee that finding someone will make me happy. I don't know if that's the cure for finding happiness, joy, or elation. There's no way to know that, but like, I threw this in here as like a kind of a jab at the idea that maybe that could fix things for me, maybe that could be the solution, but again, there's no real way to know that. But everyone is happy except for me. Everyone's found somebody except for me, because that's what it feels like every day. If I go to work, if I go somewhere I don't want to be, I will see people out being all happy together as a couple. It kind of annoys me. It should annoy anyone who's just alone and doesn't have anyone there for them, but that's what those lyrics mean to me. And then the next line here, I must be alone because it's so sad to see. I must be lonely. Maybe it's meant to be. Because I think that sometimes. I see people together in love, see people have someone that they can lean on, and then I just think, I must be alone because it's so sad to see, because it is. I feel like I look in a mirror and I see myself, I'm like, I'm alone and it's really sad. And I must be lonely. Maybe it's meant to be. Because it might be. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea if I'm meant to be alone. I'm like 27 now, and it feels like I'm meant to be alone. It feels that way. Even if it's not meant to be, it feels that way. And yeah, it's awful, man. I wish it wasn't like that, but it is what it is, right? Putting on a brave face. But going into the chorus here, because the chorus is pretty important. Lately I've been thinking I'll never get out in time, trapped in a maze full of depressing lines. So picture a maze in your head, right? And you if you're thinking about the feeling of being elated, the feeling of elation, you think you'll never get out in time. You think of this maze, you're constantly trapped in it. Think of like one of those restaurant mazes where you have to color in to get to the exit or whatever. Those puzzles, right? You're trapped in a maze, and it's full of depressing lines, right? Imagine that, this depressing feeling bogging you down every step of the way through the maze. There's no way out. And you're just trapped in this depressing maze. And the exit is supposed to be happiness. It's supposed to be that feeling of elation. Now, going on to the next line here, this will make a lot of sense. How do I get out when every exit's full of doubt? Honestly, I might never make it or ever feel elated. So I really thought about this line when writing it with, like, let's say you did get out of this maze full of depressing lines, right? Or you're trapped in here. Let's say you did find the exit. You would second guess yourself. You would doubt that that's actually an exit, and it would just turn to another hedge in the maze. And then I thought about, you hit that exit, you meet the exit full of doubt, and you start to think, honestly, I might never make it or ever feel elated. That's what it's like inside of my head. My head is a depressing maze that I will never get out of. And it sucks. But that is how I feel every day. Every day my head feels like this. And whether or not there's a cure for this or not, I don't know. But that's the whole reason I wrote this course, is because that's how I felt. And I wanted to write that in there. So, yeah. Moving on from the chorus is going to be verse 2. And it's another kind of a beatdown jab, at the idea of elation. Verse 2, saying I'm fine just to hide the pain. Saying sorry to keep me from going insane. Recently, I'll just bring this up. Recently at work, I've met someone, coworker, that says sorry and thank you a lot, and I don't know why. When I wrote this, saying I'm fine just to hide the pain, when you say you're fine, you're not really fine, and I think that's kind of why I say I'm fine. Like, saying I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm better, even. Saying that it's just an excuse to kind of blow off steam, to be like, don't ask how I feel, don't ask me how I feel. Please don't ask me about my day. I'm just here to be here, And then saying sorry to keep me from going insane, because saying sorry just kind of pushes people to be like, leave me alone. Because if I say sorry, things will just go away, right? Or even saying like, thank you or you're welcome, like those type of things. Like saying sorry, when I heard my coworker say sorry, it's like they're trying to push me away. Or they're trying not to get in trouble or something, So that kind of, I was thinking about that when I saw this line again. But yeah, I saying sorry and saying I'm fine, it's like, those are ways to, like, basically push someone away. And that's why I would say I'm fine, or I'm saying sorry, like, like it's like everything is my fault. Like I'm trying to just push the situation away. But then looking at this last 4 lines here, losing my mental, selling my soul is the only cost that'll make me whole. Like I said, my head is like this huge depressing maze, and from saying sorry and saying I'm fine, I do lose my mental on the daily, because I'm just constantly building up depression or anger or what have you in my little brain. And selling my soul is the only cost that'll make me whole. Basically, putting up a wall and saying, I'm fine, sorry, is the only cost that'll make me whole, because I can't find the feeling of elation. I'm constantly just pushing things away, pushing things out to try and make myself feel normalized, And that's kind of what this whole verse made me feel like. But anywho, pre-chorus the same here. It's just a little shorted for the sake of the song, because I want to keep things I guess going in terms of motivation for the song and what it's driving to. Chorus is a little different here, because instead of putting the elation thing here, I put so, and then it goes into the bridge. And the bridge is a lot of questions, and I feel like with a bridge in this song, it makes sense to ask a lot of questions, because that's how the intro is going. But starting with the first few lines, where do I go from here? Will I always be trapped in the dark? So let's say you're at the exit again of this maze, of this self-proclaimed maze in your head. Where do you go from here? Will I always be trapped in the dark? Like, basically saying, if you find the exit and you find happiness, you find this elation you've been looking for, you start to ask yourself questions, because again, this maze all the exits in this maze are filled with doubt. So this bridge is asking those questions of doubt. Where do I go from here? Will I always be trapped in the dark? Will I always be this way? And then, conquered by fear, does the road ever lead back to home, or does it leave me all alone? Because again, the doubts at these exits are filled with fear because you're afraid of going through this exit because you don't know whether or not that exit's just going to lead to more depression or more anger or what have you, right? So basically asking, well, am I always going to be trapped in the dark, conquered by fear? And then the questions here, does the road ever lead back home? Does this metaphorical maze ever lead back to home? Where, because the definition of home to me is like the room I'm in right now, my safe space. Does the road ever lead back to home, a safe space where you can feel happy and somewhat normal, right? Or does the road leave me all alone? Does the road, does it leave me all alone? Because that's what I wonder when I search for happiness or when I look for the thing that I want to make me happy. I do wonder if it's just going to leave me all alone. Like, if you're looking for a relationship or something to make you who you are, like, you sometimes wonder, is this relationship that I'm pursuing or this person that I'm pursuing just going to leave me all alone? Because you don't know. And that's this metaphorical maze in my head is just filled with doubts at every exit. It's the bridge is asking a lot of questions and they're valid ones, I think, for what goes on in my head, you know? Pre-chorus, again, is shorter, but it's basically the same thing, but kind of going down to the one lines, everyone's happy except for me, everyone's found somebody except for me. And then going into the chorus here, it's a bit different. I wanted to do a lot with this chorus that I feel like it gets the point across. So these first few lines here are the same. When it goes, I might never make it, and then the chorus changes. And the reason I wanted to change up the chorus is because I feel like I want to get across the point that I might never be happy. And I want people to know what that feeling of not being happy is like if you don't understand it. So looking at the lyrics here, I might break down and cry. What's the point of existing when eventually I'll lay out and die? Because, you know, I don't know if I've cried in a long time. So I might break down and cry at this point of not being happy. You know, and then it's like, what's the point of existing when eventually I'll just lay out and die? Because that's what I think about when, you know, I've been alone for so long. I felt like a burden for so long. I haven't felt the feeling of elation since maybe I was a kid, you know? So what's the point of existing when eventually I'll just lay out and die, when I don't have a purpose to keep me going, you know? And then the next lines here, maybe someday I'll wake up and try until I feel elated. Maybe someday I'll wake up and try. Maybe someday I'll get out of the maze and find a reason to try until I feel elated. So this feeling of elation, I feel like, is a huge thing for me in terms of, like, will I ever feel this? And if I do, will it get me out of this maze I'm stuck in, you know? And then the last few lines here, until I do, I'll never relate to the feeling of elate. I'll never relate to the feeling of something that I cannot find, is kind of what this whole song ends at, is like, this feeling may or may not exist. And I think that's the whole point of the song, is like, does the feeling of joy, happiness, or elation exist? I don't know, because I've never really felt it, and it sucks. It really does. But, you know, I think somewhere down the road through what I've written, maybe there will be some light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know. But hopefully, you know, once I start going through all of that, we'll see. But yeah, that is going to be the end of this little lyric breakdown. But thank you guys for watching, listening as well. I appreciate it a ton, and I will see you guys in the near future.